What's happening, everybody? Welcome to the Blue Review. I am Greg Bergman at Bergman Greg, and this is Matthew Moreno, managing editor of Dodger Blue. You can find him at mmoreno1015, which I don't know what the 1015 stands for. I'm guessing your birthday?
Yes.
Oh, look at that. Oh, you just had your birthday then. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Sorry you had to deal with what we had to deal with for your birthday, because that is brutal. So the way I want to start off with this, everybody is upset. I'm at a point in my life right now where I'm not over this. I'm not over this loss for the Dodgers. I can't tell you why. It hurts so bad knowing that the Dodgers lost in the NLDS. When anybody ever brings up anything to do with the Dodgers, I go, I don't know what you're talking about. Baseball ended like 2 weeks ago. I don't know what you're talking about. How are you feeling about this right now? Because maybe, help me get off the ledge, maybe? I don't know. Because I'm awful right now.
Yeah, so it's definitely frustrating and confusing. And we were kind of talking about before we started, obviously. In 2017, I think that was devastating for a lot of people because you get to the World Series, they hadn't been there. You get to a Game 7, it's at home, and then you fall short. And watching the Astros celebrate on your field, that hurts. This one, I don't know. I mean, I'm sort of with you. I don't know if I'm completely at the ledge. But in terms of coming up with answers, there are certain things, and we'll kind of get into it as to what was to blame.
Sure, but here's my thing. And yes, 2017, Game 7 of the World Series loss was absolutely devastating. I was just torn apart. However, that was the World Series Game 7. They went all the way to Game 7 of this World Series. You can kind of understand. You're like, oh, God, we just got you Darvish, or however you want to look at it. They didn't even get close. It wasn't even close. It was just a disaster where you lose in 5 games to the Washington Nationals, who, are in the World Series, so happy for them, good for you. I don't like it because the Dodgers would have absolutely destroyed the St. Louis Cardinals in the NLCS. It wouldn't have even been close, and this would have been a rematch, Astros-Dodgers, and all of a sudden, totally in the air, totally different game. So I don't like it because it was the first round. This was the best Dodger team I had ever been a part of. I've never watched a better Dodger team just in every facet of the game. They were the best that I've seen, and they blew it in the first round. And look, yes, I get it, and people are talking about it here, saying that it'll be okay after New Year's from Mario Pantalone Caro, and Andrew Kidd 06 says it was better than back-to-back World Series losses at home too. No, I would have rather been in the World Series for the 3rd year in a row.
Right, because at least if you get to the World Series, you're giving yourself a shot, and who knows what happens at that point.
Right, absolutely. And Trevor Lane, what's up, Trevor? Welcome into the show. Says, drown your Dodgers sorrows in Lakers opening night. Tomorrow. Lakers opening night for the Lakers and Clippers tomorrow night. And I got a great bet with Clipper Darrell. You know Clipper Darrell?
Yes.
Yeah, so me and Clipper Darrell have a bet, which I talked about on Trevor Lane's show when I had him on last week, or he had me on last week. And so tell me who got the better side of this. Okay. It's on my side. If I lose, if the Clippers win, I have to wear a Clippers jersey, and I have to do the Let's Go Clippers chant, which I'm assuming is just like every other team's chant of Let's Go Clippers.
That'd be my guess.
That's all I can guess. I don't think they have some special chant because they're the Clippers. And if I win, if the Lakers win, then Clipper Darrell has to say that the Lakers have always and will always run LA, and the Clippers should move to Seattle, and also that you should follow Showtime Forum for all the best Lakers information while wearing a Lakers jersey. Who has the better side of that deal?
I think you definitely got the better side of that.
Right?
I mean, chanting "Let's go Clippers," whatever. You say it and move on.
Okay.
Clipper Darrell having to admit that, which all of LA seems to already recognize and acknowledge.
Right.
I think will hurt him.
Yeah, it'll hurt him greatly. The fact that he has to. Let's move in just a little bit.
Sorry about that.
No, it's
guys.
all right. See, that's why we put it this way. We were having to decide were we going to put the camera facing us or away from us, and now we can see how to be in screen. So I think it's the right decision. Yeah. All right, let's go back to some of the questions, then we'll get back to what we want to talk about. But we're used to it from Eric Jimenez. Frustrated with trade choices, a Rusty Star. I think that's an interesting thing that we can go back. So, all right, so frustrated with trade choices. So if we're going to blame somebody, let's actually do a blame game here.
Okay.
Who do you blame, and are the trade choices a part of that blame?
I suppose you can lump them in there, but really my counter to that would be Adam Kolarek pitched well and did his job when he was given the opportunity to. Games 4 and 5, he didn't face Juan Soto. We don't need to get into what happened.
what Juan Soto did?
I think we all kind of know. Maybe you could fault Friedman for not being too aggressive, but there was obviously that horrendous report with Felipe Vasquez coming out. So I know everybody was pining for him, and had the Dodgers made that trade, it would have completely blown up in their face, and understandably so.
I don't know. When it comes to the trade choices, yes, you got it right on the head that Adam Kolarek turned out to be the best trade chip of everybody. I mean, it was a lefty, a loogie that you're probably not going to get much of next year because they're going to get rid of all that. But he's a guy that came in and got Juan Soto out consistently and was against lefties, was fantastic. Why you didn't go to him in those situations in the 4th and 5th games of the series is a whole nother discussion to have for a whole nother day, but it was a bad decision. And so when it comes to blaming, I blame just a couple of people. I blame Clayton Kershaw because he absolutely blew up on 6 pitches in Game 5 with a 3-1 lead. He deserves a lot of that blame. I blame Dave Roberts because I think that Dave Roberts made awful decisions, and maybe not having Clayton Kershaw in that game right there, but more so not having Adam Kolarek and Kenta Maeda in the bullpen at the start of the inning ready to go. Right. After Anthony Rendon gave up the home run, you knew that basically, look, Kershaw, he gave up a home run, it's 3-2 now, kind of got to go away. We got Juan Soto sitting there with Adam Kolarek, who's already 3 for 3 against him. Let's bring him in, then Kenta Maeda after that, and you go right through, you win 3-2, game over, goodbye, done.
Right.
Instead, he didn't have either of those guys ready to go, and then Clayton Kershaw on the very next pitch gives up a tying home run to Juan Soto. Now, still tied, whatever. We don't need to rehash everything that happened in the game itself, but the fact of the matter is, then you went with Joe Kelly an inning too long. You went another inning of Joe Kelly where he loaded the bases and you left him in. That's a bad decision from Dave Roberts, because Dave Roberts said after the game which you've done a lot of listening to Dave Roberts over the last couple of weeks, that Dave Roberts then said that this was basically a gut choice, and that his gut was absolutely wrong. So when it comes to Andrew Friedman in the front office, I don't blame him at all. Period.
Yeah. So. There's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah, sorry.
No. We could. Yeah. So I put a lot of the blame. The Game 5 loss, to me, a lot of that goes on Dave Roberts' shoulders for many of the reasons you just outlined.
Yeah.
We discussed it going into Game 5 and even during it. To me, I don't think Kershaw really had any business pitching in that game. The exception to that would have been if Buehler only went 3 or 4 innings and you absolutely needed some sort of length from somebody. Fine. But you called on him, okay, so he got you out of the jam in the 7th. That would have been it for me. You need 6 outs. You have a pretty much rested and healthy available bullpen. Mm-hmm. You mix and match, which is what they've been doing.
So what do you do there? Let's say that's what happened. Let's go backwards now.
Okay.
So I'm assuming you would come out in the 8th inning with Kenta Maeda.
Yes.
So you're going to go one batter with Kenta Maeda versus Rendon, and that's it. Because after that, he's a righty going to a lefty. You have to go Soto with Kolarek right after that.
If not Maeda, maybe you burn Dustin May.
Okay, for one
batter.
Take
your chances.
Okay.
That way
you can't get burned if it's a home run.
It's one batter. Then you bring in Kolarek to get Soto, and then after that, you have Maeda, you have Kelly, you have Baez, you have Kenley,
and then you have Kershaw.
And then if you really do need him after all of that, then you still have Kershaw.
Yeah. All right. So we were talking a little bit before the show, and I was saying I don't blame Andrew Friedman whatsoever. Andrew Friedman has completely transformed this Dodgers team. He's made it into where you have a top 5 minor league system that's still growing. There's still guys just coming up and up and up and being great players. Gavin Lux is now up, and he's not totally up, but for the most part, you assume he is. And they're still they're winning every division. There's 7 years in a row. They went to back-to-back World Series besides this year, which is still killing me. But yeah, so I don't blame Friedman for all of that. And you said you do a little bit.
I think I would a little bit from the standpoint of at times, maybe not so much this year, but in years past, there may have been times where he should have pushed the envelope and maybe quote unquote gone all in.
Yeah.
And you could sit here and say, well, maybe this trade should have been made instead of this one. That being said, he did go out and get Yu Darvish. He did go out and get Manny Machado, which at the time they were 2 of the best available players.
Right.
Where Friedman, I think, runs into trouble with me and with some of other people is signing AJ Pollock to a 5-year contract.
Not a ton of money.
No, but I think the length is what's concerning there.
Right.
He was somebody who already had an injury history. And they tried to pitch it as kind of bad luck at his introductory press conference. And fine, even if that is the case, okay. And sure enough, today, this season, his elbow, it was literally that was a fluke injury that Pollock, for whatever reason, has just kind of suffered throughout his career.
Right. So, I mean, Pollock, look, if you're going to talk about A.J. Pollock, you have to bring in the fact that he was 0 for 14 with 12 strikeouts.
Right.
So, obviously, yes, it was the wrong decision because of what happened there. I was on the board at the beginning of the year saying A.J. Pollock is the right guy to bring in because I was like, watch, in the playoffs, he's going to have some big hits, and you're going to be like, oh, I love A.J. Pollock. Yeah, he was the exact opposite. So sometimes you can be wrong. Sometimes I can be wrong. But yeah, Pollock, I thought was going to be better than he actually turned out to be, especially in the postseason when you're facing a lefty and he's a lefty killer that can't hit a lefty or can't hit anybody for that matter.
Yeah, he really struggled. And I think that had Alex Verdugo been healthy, the series would have been different because I think Verdugo, with the exception of maybe game 1 when Corbin was starting, Verdugo's in the lineup. And he obviously produced all year long. He could put the bat to the ball,
Yep.
And that's kind of what the Dodgers struggled with. Going back, and that'll kind of, I guess, circle back to where the blame falls. Game 5, I put on Dave Roberts' shoulders, at least the majority of it for his decision-making.
Yep.
But the series as a whole, Bellinger was slow to finally start hitting, and he didn't hit for power.
Nope.
Seager was absent.
Completely gone.
Pollock's stats you just went over.
Yeah.
So really at the end of the day, the blame falls on the players. And I know the fans probably don't want to hear that because they, Friedman and his analytics, Roberts and his analytics, which is kind of funny because had Roberts stuck to analytics in game 5, it plays out a little bit differently, I think.
Totally. And when it comes to Dave Roberts, so he just got brought back in. And by the way, you're not making me feel any better about this loss yet.
Sorry.
This is what you're supposed to come in here. You're supposed to come sit down, make me feel better. I'm already uncomfortable. I'm wearing these freaking collared shirt instead of my normal hat and T-shirt. So I'm already feeling a little off anyway.
See, I thought I was going to be able to get stuff off my chest tonight. I didn't know that.
Oh, no, this was supposed to be for me. I don't know why you thought it was for you. No, it's for us to just everybody to kind of, get together. But when Dave Roberts brought back, they said that they never even thought about getting rid of him. And it took me a little while to get there. Right after the game happened, I said on one of these post games, on the Blue Review, I said, Dave Roberts coming back, Andrew Friedman coming back. It doesn't matter. It's going to happen. It's just how it's going to be. And I kind of agreed with it. After thinking about it and starting to think about how, different managers and coaches in different sports, when you change that one piece, they become a championship level team. Mm-hmm. And I feel like this might be that situation where Dave Roberts has brought the Dodgers as far as they can go.
That's fair. And I've kind of had the same thoughts. And I think a year from now, we could be seeing that kind of play out and unfold if the Dodgers fall short.
Right.
I didn't think Roberts was in any real danger of being fired. Some of it is he just signed a 4-year extension, a 4-year contract last December. If there was any scenario where I saw them maybe parting ways, it was this, where they kind of crashed and burned in the first round. That being said, I don't know if you get rid of Dave, who do you bring in? Is there a clear-cut manager who's a better option?
All right.
But maybe you don't necessarily need that. Then it kind of goes to there might just need to be a change of voice in the room.
Well, I think that's what it is. So Dave Roberts was not a manager before he got this job.
Right.
Aaron Boone, they live, in the ALCS, but he wasn't even a high school coach. He had never been any type of coach whatsoever. He went straight from booth to manager, mm-hmm. and he took his team to that team had an exorbitant amount of injuries,
right.
And all the Herman thing where he where he had some domestic issues, but it doesn't matter the name anymore in baseball. I don't think, because a manager during the regular season can win or lose you 10 games total, basically, mm-hmm. in my mind. And in the playoffs, that number is brought completely down to where you mm-hmm. actually, it's all of a sudden now he can win and lose you every single game based on his decision making. And I think that Dave Roberts' decision making has just been bad for the most part. I mean, he's made some good choices here and there, but for the most part, they have not been strong choices. And so I just don't think he's a nice guy. He's a great guy. People really seem to like him in the clubhouse, but I don't know how much further he can take them. And it seems to me that next year, if they don't win a World Series, he's done.
I think that's fair. I would agree with that.
Yeah, and I think that's a tough place to be in. If you're a manager and now you have to say to yourself, I have to win a World Series next year or I'm being fired, then you're a lame duck head coach and you're not, or manager in this situation, and you're not going to do well. I can't see how it's a positive situation for him.
My guess is the Dodgers wouldn't be telling him, "Hey, you need to win a World Series
No.
or you're out." The writing is probably on the wall. I think Dave would understand that, but I think what he is exceptionally strong in is kind of keeping the focus on the day to day. So even if it is weighing on him personally, I think he'll be able to keep it out of the clubhouse and kind of keep the team focused on, hopefully winning a World Series. And really, if he does that, a lot of it will kind of just come down to, again, if Bellinger hits the way that he is capable of, the Dodgers are still playing.
Right. Oh yeah.
If one more player kind of meets their expectations, they're still playing right now.
Right. Oh, there's a lot of things. Look, we can get into why that is, and I actually want to get into that with you right after this. Will Smith in the bottom of the 9th inning against Daniel Hudson hit a ball that landed just shy of the warning track. He tossed his bat, saying, I just hit it out. I just hit a walk-off home run in the NLDS in Game 5. I'm a superstar. I'm a hero. We just won. We're going to the NLCS. We're probably going to the World Series. Dropped short. Barely dropped short. It was like warning track.
Yeah.
Now, some of the biggest things that are happening that I'm reading online and a lot of the different stories that are out there is about how the ball in the regular season is not the same as the ball in the postseason. And people like John Ireland, who's on Mason Ireland, doesn't believe that this is a thing, and he doesn't understand why. So maybe you can explain it. Why did they change the ball, and what is the reasoning for it?
Well, if you ask MLB, they haven't changed the baseball.
Well, yeah, they're lying.
So I don't know. I think they might have they're trying to overcorrect the perception that developed in the regular season, where obviously the balls were juiced, if that's the terminology you want to use.
They were.
But watching the games, balls off the bat in the playoffs just weren't carrying.
Nope.
Off the bat, I would think, okay, that's a home run, based off what I saw all regular season. And it just they weren't carrying. And so I think baseball might have kind of overreacted and gotten too I don't want to say scared, but sensitive to the criticism, and they try to correct it, and the pendulum just swung way too far in the other direction.
Right. And so what is the reason why? Let's just say for argument's sake, yes, they changed the ball to a dead ball. What is your reasoning for it?
I couldn't even tell you. I don't know what the reason. Maybe postseason baseball is supposed to be tighter games where it's 3-1 instead of 10-4.
Yeah, well, I think that's what it is. In the regular season, you want to see home runs. You want to see long ball. You want to see high-scoring games. The superstars come out to play during the regular season, where you're seeing Cody Bellinger hitting 40-plus home runs. You're seeing Max Muncy hitting these 35 whatever home runs that he had. Like guys hit bombs and just every single time, because that's what's exciting and getting people to watch baseball. In the playoffs, the superstars aren't the hitters anymore. The superstars are the pitchers now. Like Walker Buehler was the superstar of the Dodgers because he was fantastic in that series. Same thing with Max Scherzer and Steven Strasburg, and you want to see Justin Verlander pitch a good game. You want to see Garrett Cole have 17 strikeouts. You don't want to see him giving up you don't want to see your best pitcher getting blasted over and over again. So by deadening the ball, you have a tighter score. You have a 2-1 game. You have a 3-2 game. And maybe they'll hit a home run every once in a while because they have that much power. But you go smaller to try and get to have people more excited, because who doesn't want to see a game in the 8th inning tied 3-3?
Right.
It doesn't matter if you lose the game 7-4. You want to see a tight game at the end, because that's how you get ratings.
Yeah.
So the dead ball, that's why it makes sense to me. I just don't. I think it's absolutely a thing that was happening, and you could tell, like you saw it. Cody Bellinger stopped short so many times. Rendon, Soto, both of those guys were getting stopped short. We saw a ball in that game, in Game 5, from Jock Peterson that went through the gate. That was a home run any other day in the regular season.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Now, when it comes to this Dodgers team, and you talked a little bit about Kelly Bellinger not doing well. Talked a little bit about Corey Seager not doing well, and we obviously talked about AJ Pollock. What do you see for next season? What is the change that happens for the next season? And we were talking a little bit earlier, and sorry to keep rambling on, but there's thought about Anthony Rendon being a free agent and coming to the Dodgers. Now, let's just say, for argument's sake, before we get into what his contract and all that stuff would look like, let's say you get Anthony Rendon, you move him to third base. What do you do with Justin Turner and everybody else in the infield?
So for me, Justin Turner would slide to first base, which all signs are he's open to and willing to do.
Okay.
Then you put Max Muncy at second base.
Okay.
I know that's where Gavin Lux finished the season this year.
Right.
I'm not necessarily fully convinced right now that the Dodgers will commit right off the bat to Lux being on the opening day roster.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if Rendon does come and you do that kind of reshuffling, if you do want Lux to start semi-regularly, I think you might explore trading Corey Seager. And it's something that's kind of been kicked around and speculated about. And, we have a question.
Janice Dayoff says, do you think it's a possibility for the Dodgers to trade Seager?
I think so. I wouldn't necessarily say it's likely. I think it's definitely a possibility. And if free agency goes that way where Anthony Rendon comes and they move Turner and they slide Muncy over and they want a spot for Lux, that's kind of your only option.
Well, Lux he was mostly a shortstop
Right.
in the minor leagues. He
Right.
moved over to second base because there's a hole at second base with the Dodgers, and that's where they would.
And his impact, he wanted to reach the majors this year, and he knew that. So when he was in AAA, he asked if he could start playing more second base.
Right, because he wanted to play.
And sure enough, Muncy broke his wrist, or small fracture, and Lux ended up coming up. Obviously.
Right, yeah, guys hitting people with balls, driving me nuts. But yes, so when it comes to Corey Seager, now I think we're going to have a difference of opinion here when it comes to, that's good. I see Corey Seager as a guy that can be an MVP candidate. He can be a superstar in this league. I think that he is at some point going to be the best player on the Dodgers team as long as he stays healthy, which obviously, he had the Tommy John surgery, he had the hip issue, blah, 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 and he just didn't perform in the postseason. I see Corey Seager being a superstar in this league, a superstar shortstop for the Dodgers, and you think trade him. I mean, you could probably get a lot for him, and that would help with Rendon, but, Corey Seager's, 26?
Around there.
Somewhere.
Yeah, he's young.
And Rendon's 30, 31?
29.
He's 29, so he's going to be 30 next year.
30, yeah,
He's going to be right around 30 next year. Age gap, a little bit different. So I just think that I'm personally on the keep Corey Seager train because I think a young core that's really good in Bellinger and Seager and Muncy is a good thing to have. Why am I wrong?
Well, for starter, I guess looking a little bit further down the line, I think at some point you're going to have to pay when they reach free agency Seager, Bellinger, and Buehler.
Right.
So if you need to pick two of the three, I don't know if the Dodgers would be able to pay all three.
Fair.
So if you're assuming you're going to have to pick two of the three, you take Buehler's a lock.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely, 100% lock.
And then you could kind of have a discussion on your two position players. I personally would go with Bellinger. He's a little bit more versatile.
Yep. I would too.
And again, I think some of it comes down to you might need a spot for Lux, and Seager could be your best trade chip. So it's not necessarily an indictment on him. I think he's a talented player. I think he could have a great career with the Dodgers or somewhere else. It could just be where, it makes the most sense for everybody to kind of make this trade.
So you're saying basically victim of circumstance.
A little bit.
And that's just kind of where he's going to go. I mean, that's fair. I'm not against what you're saying because, look, if you trade him, you'll probably get a lot of assets in return, draft picks and, like international money and all the crazy thing that happened in baseball. It's not just like player A for player B. But, yeah, I mean, I could be swayed into that, especially with the idea of having to pay all three of those guys. And you're already going to be paying like an Anthony Rendon, who, by the way, from everything we've heard, and is a guy that it depends on what happens in the World Series, right? If they get swept out of the World Series by a much more talented, better Houston Astros team, then maybe he doesn't want to stay in Washington. Mm-hmm. If he doesn't, from what I understand, he doesn't care about the length of years.
Yeah, that seems to be the early indications. But I also feel like we've heard this before with other free agents, so I'm kind of skeptical. Right. Until it kind of comes to fruition, but
there's one type. There's the Bryce Harper that wants the 13 years, which all the way up until his 39-year-old season, and then there's the Anthony Rendon that just wants to play till he's like 35, 36. So if you give Anthony Rendon, a 4 or 5 year deal with a high amount of money, so you're talking like $40 million a year over 4 or 5 years, I think he would take that to be in LA. I mean that's $160 million for 4 years. So yeah, that's a lot. Which, by the way, and everyone was going to mention. I can't wait for it. Or cancer screw. I don't know. People saying fake Dodger fan, whatever. I don't know why that stopped me. Sorry, but I lost my train of thought. I was talking about Anthony Rendon. The Dodgers, Andrew Friedman has never given a gigantic deal like that. Right. They've never gone over $100 million, except for if it's the right guy. I think when you saw with Bryce Harper, they would have given him a 4 or 5 year deal worth a lot, like $30 to $40 million, and he was going to pay everything that they could. It didn't matter. So I think it's to the idea that they won't give the extra money depends on the person.
That's fair. I think it's definitely been circumstantial because they did make an earnest effort to re-sign Greinke, and they had it from what reports came out after the fact down to the minute, and then the Diamondbacks swooped in with their record-breaking contract, and at that point the Dodgers weren't going to match, which you can't really fault them for at that point. I mean,
right.
So we'll see. I mean, Rendon, Garrett Cole are definitely interesting tests to kind of see the limits of what Friedman might be comfortable doing.
Right.
Personally, between the two, I would take Rendon over Cole.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's try and break that down a little bit. So Garrett Cole is a guy that can strike out basically anybody in this league. He can get 17 strikeouts in a playoff game. And if you have a 1-2 punch of Walker Buehler and Garrett Cole, or Walker Buehler, which would you rather have? Walker Buehler and Garrett Cole, or Walker Buehler and Steven Strasburg? Because they're both free agents. All three of these guys, both these guys are free agents.
Well, assuming Strasburg opts out.
Right, which I would assume he's going to
probably
opt out.
At this point.
Yeah. So who would you rather have? I mean, because Strasburg is going to throw curveballs. He's going to throw off-speed pitches. He can get up into the 95, 96 range. But do you want to go back and forth with the guy? So Walker Buehler's throwing 99 to 100, and Strasburg dropping down to 89 with a curveball, and getting up to 96. Or would you want a guy in Garrett Cole who's throwing 96, 97 miles an hour, and you're going speed, power on power with your 1-2?
That's tough because obviously Cole is younger than Strasburg.
Right.
So you have that. I think Strasburg, though, is a little more tested and proven. Cole has been a very good pitcher throughout his young career so far. He's been at this level only since joining the Astros, and it's really only...
Crazy how that happens.
It's really only 2 seasons at that point, and so you never... Is this the pitcher he will be the rest of his career? Maybe. You would obviously hope so if you're going to sign him.
Right.
Whereas with Strasburg, he's older, but you've seen him over and over. He is who he is, and you know that.
Right.
I honestly I don't know.
I mean, you can't go wrong with either one.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, they're both. So I guess the idea is just going with power or power off speed.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Let's see what some of the people have to say before we go on to a couple. I hope the series goes 7 games. 2 from Dogley04. Astros are a cancer from Elm Street. So all right. I agree. I don't know why. Julian Hernandez, I think Jeter Downs might help the Dodgers make a decision on Seager down the line. Jeter Downs is in high A right now.
He reached Double A.
Did he get to Double A? Yeah, so he's still...
Or, no, maybe I get him and Josiah Gray mixed up just because they came in the same.
Yeah.
Downs might have finished with the Quakes.
Oh, did he? Did he make it up to... Okay. So if he did...
He's still too far away.
Yeah, you're talking 2-3 years down the line. So maybe not. Does Jeter Downs make a? I don't think that makes a decision. They did say down the line, but Seager's coming up on a contract. It's right. Just about time. So if you are going to trade him, to your point, now is the time as he's getting out of arbitration.
Correct, because I think if you're the Dodgers and you're open to the idea of possibly trading him, you do it this winter as opposed to next year when his value is only going to kind of continue to diminish because of the team control. You're losing that aspect.
Right. All right, let me just do this really quickly. I thought you were going to have a longer answer.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. Frank Hermosa, Cole is a must for me. I mean, here's the thing. When it comes to Cole, and I think you made this point maybe just a little bit earlier, but Garrett Cole is not going to be – he wants years. He wants money and years.
I believe so.
So the Dodgers have never given a pitcher in any sense over 5 years. And he's going to want, 6, 7, 8. He's going to want to have, he's going to want a contract kind of along the lines of Bryce Harper, I would assume, where it has a long length to it. Mm-hmm. Maybe even more Machado, where it has 10 years behind it. I don't know if that's something the Dodgers will do, and especially for a pitcher. I don't think you can give a pitcher a long deal like that.
Right. Yeah. Those are always tricky. You never know. And I think Friedman has been a little I don't think critical from this, but he's prudent with his contracts for the most part, and that's why I kind of think they would go more position player with a Bryce Harper or an Anthony Rendon before really, kind of going all out financially for a pitcher,
right?
Whether years or money, salary.
Yeah, so that's probably one thing. And now, okay, so I want to change subjects just a little bit here and go to the pitching staff. And Rick Honeycutt has moved. He is no longer the pitching coach. He has moved up into an upper office role where he's not really going to do anything. It's like special advisor to the assistant of the whatever. I don't know what the exact name for it is, but he sits there and doesn't do anything. He just gets paid by the team.
Well, hopefully he'll still be involved.
Yeah, I would hope so, because the fact of the matter is he made this Dodge. If you go by the numbers, he had the number one pitching staff in all of baseball. And by the bullpen, which is maybe it's more Mark Pryor, maybe it's him as well, but at the same time, they were the number 4 team in all of baseball for their bullpen. So that's a amazing pitching staff that Rick Honeycutt and has always had good pitching.
And it's been that way for multiple years, not just this year.
No. So Honeycutt leaving is a big deal. It's actually a huge loss. Upset about that. Rick Honeycutt also hit me in the leg in a media game in like 2008, and it
still
hurt.
recovering.
Yeah, I'm still recovering. I don't play sports anymore because of it. No, I still do, but he did. I played in a media game and he hit me in the leg, and was not given first base, and I had to swing again, and I popped up to first base. So I should have been on first base, and I would have been able to steal because I was fast back then. I'm not anymore. But so the idea now is that Mark Pryor is going to come in, and for a lot of people, I'm assuming that's going to be something that's scary to hear, right? People think that Mark Pryor, and they think bullpen. Oh no, bullpen sucked, and it's Mark Pryor.
Probably. Hopefully that will be answered relatively quickly. I mean, the good thing about Pryor is he's been around for 2 years. And so fans, I know there might be some caution, but hopefully they get over that. In terms of what I'm actually really interested to see is with Clayton Kershaw. Because for his entire career, he's known one pitching coach.
Right.
That's been Rick Honeycutt. And so it'll just be kind of interesting to see the dynamic. Like I said, Mark Pryor's been around, so it will help the transition. And I guess we should preface this with it's not officially official. Friedman said that's the likely scenario that'll play out. But
right, it's not official, so we can't actually say that. But, I mean, do you have an issue with Mark Pryor being?
No, I think that makes the most sense as opposed to maybe going out of the organization and finding somebody new. And the main reason for that is I think Mark Pryor has already developed relationships with some of the pitchers on the staff, and that'll be key kind of moving forward under Honeycutt, or without Honeycutt. Without Honeycutt.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting because that's the same thing with Walker Buehler. Most of these guys, they've only had Rick Honeycutt, who is a excellent pitching coach. If he's still around, that helps that he can go stand down there with Pryor and be like, hey, this is what you should be telling him here, and you should be doing that there. So hopefully that will all work out. But if anything happens, if the pitching staff is bad next year, Mark Pryor's going to get blamed.
Yeah, he definitely will.
Yeah, and as long as he is the coach. I mean, who knows? We don't know if he's going to be the pitching coach or not. I think this is a really good question, and I think we're going back into what's going to happen next year.
Okay.
Is that Janice Dayoff is asking Rich Hill and Dodger Blue next year. He's 39 years old. He's a guy that most people think that is probably going to retire. This was his last chance. David Freese has already retired. So what do you think Rich Hill is going to do next year?
I see Rich coming back.
Really?
I think he enjoyed his time with the Dodgers. I think he values the opportunity to win a World Series, which obviously they fell a lot shorter this year than the last 2 years, but the team is still talented enough to get there. And so I think Rich would be open to, similar to a Chase Utley deal, where it's 2 years on the surface to kind of balance out the competitive bounce tax that the Dodgers have to pay and luxury tax threshold and all that stuff. But it wouldn't shock me to see him back under a team-friendly deal. And quite frankly, you would need someone like him to be your 5th/6th/7th starter to kind of rotate, get you through the season, because the pitching staff, starting rotation, it's not really set. It's Ryu's also a free agent.
Right, I was going to go there next.
So you have Buehler and Kershaw, who are definitely back under contract.
Yeah.
Maybe Dustin May or Tony Gonsolin get a shot next year, or both, but their Dodgers have also been cautious with how many innings they put on their young pitchers.
Yeah.
So is either one of them gonna make 32 starts right off the bat? I don't think so.
Well, that's where you have Julio Urias, who was told that he was going to be in the starting rotation this next year.
Right. He also only threw 80 some odd innings, postseason, regular season included.
Sure. And then you also have Ross Stripling that would still want to be in the starting rotation.
Right.
Kenta Maeda has a starting friendly contract is one way to put it, where he gets paid per outing for the most part. Not per outing, but like he gets incentives at around 20 innings, then 22, then 25, and like all those or starts. Yeah, he gets paid per start in that sense. So that's another guy that's going to want to come out of the be a starting rotation. But so now you're at like 6-7 guys already, and that's not including what they're even going to, because they're going to be. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the Dodgers have about $100 million in payroll that's on the books right now. That's before arbitration and all that. Right. But they got money. They can go out and spend.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that doesn't mean that maybe they do go out and get a pitcher along the lines of Cole or Strasburg.
And that's fair. So I guess I technically should have prefaced my answer with that, obviously. If they go and get a Garrett Cole or Steven Strasburg, then the likelihood of Rich Hill coming back, I think, diminishes significantly. I'm just not banking on that.
Right.
I think if anything, you'll see more of the same, where Ryu is resigned, Rich is back, and they kind of roll out the same staff. Which you just said it led baseball in ERA. Wasn't horrible.
No, it was a really good pitching staff actually. But so you think that Ryu, who signed a qualifying offer, which was 17-9 this year, I believe, he signed a 1 year. Do you think that you think he's going to come back on another 1 year deal?
No. I think it's likely that the Dodgers re-sign him.
Okay.
Because I don't necessarily see them extending themselves for a Cole or a Strasburg. I think Ryu's kind of the middle ground in terms of what they're comfortable with in terms of length and money.
Okay, so does his injury history? I know he was healthy basically this entire year. He took, he was a little bit off in September, but for the most part, he was actually healthy all year long. So do you think he's past all that, or are you a little bit worried about his injury history?
I mean, I think you always have to be a little concerned just because it's happened. You can't erase the past, and you know that it's there. But I wouldn't say absolutely do not re-sign him because of this, that, and the other.
No, look, to be completely honest, Hyun-Jin Ryu was the best pitcher in baseball for the last couple of years. ERA wise, and how he's pitched at home, and a lot of the things that he's done, he's actually been up there to where he was a legit Cy Young candidate and is still a legit Cy Young candidate. Yep. So yeah, I can understand if they do bring him back, like maybe on a lower, like 3 years, 45.
I think they might stretch to 4 years, to maybe a team option or a player option type thing. But 4 years, right around there, I think would be fair.
Fair. I mean, that sounds fair to me. And honestly, I would love to have Ryu back just because how well he had pitched. I just assumed that another team would come in and say, "Here, let's give you 5-6 years, and we're going to do this, and we're going to give you a ton of money." And overpay him to go somewhere else, whether it's to like Miami or the Angels.
It's definitely a wild card. I think he will value, maybe more so than other free agents, is comfort level in being in LA.
Yeah, well, I mean that'd be great because but we've seen other. I don't want to put it this way, but like Kazi Ishii left. Kuroda left. He went to the Yankees. Teo Nomo left. So where even the comfort level hasn't always been there. So I mean, even though they're comfortable, they want the money. I mean, this is what international players. You can talk about any international player. They all want to go where the money is, and a lot of the U.S. born players all want to. Most people want the money. That's why Anthony Rendon is such a weird guy in saying that like I don't care about the money. I don't care about the years. I care about the money, and that's an important thing from what we understand. Zach Greinke, by the way, was a guy that he said, "Give me the years. Yeah. I don't care. I want more years. I want more money. I don't care where I am. Just give me the money."
Yeah, and I guess in the long run, it kind of worked out for him because now he's with the Astros, but he endured some lean years with the Diamondbacks.
Yes, he did. Where I'm going to be a little disappointed if Zach Greinke wins, and it's not because I dislike Zach Greinke. I actually really like Zach Greinke. I thought that he was great with the Dodgers. I wanted him to come back. Yeah. I was disappointed that he went to the Diamondbacks, but I mean, look, the guy was just honest. He's like, I want years, I want money. They gave me an extra year. I went to Arizona. That's the whole thing.
Yeah.
So you got to give him respect for that. But still, like it felt just like kind of hurt a little bit because the 1-2 punch of Greinke and Kershaw was good. I liked it.
Yeah.
Anyway, Air Jordan says velocity wins in October. That's a little bit interesting. How do you feel about it? Do you agree?
On the surface, I guess so, and I'm sure we might get a commenter saying, well, no, this team won this way. It helps. I would rather have it than not have it.
Right.
I think the Dodgers, for the most part, did. You had Buehler, Dustin May. I mean, a lot of the guys, unfortunately, were in the bullpen as opposed to starting, but you had some flamethrowers. So, yeah, I mean, I'd rather have velocity than not have it.
Right. So the thing, this is, I guess, I kind of set you up in a bad spot there, so that's my fault.
No, don't worry about it.
The thing with velocity is that's why this Dodger team killed me so much. They destroyed velocity. They were great against velocity. They were the best team in baseball. That's not even hyperbole. They were the best team in baseball in hitting high velocity. From 96 to 99 or 98 plus, they were like second in the league, and anything higher than that, they were first in the league. And they just knew how to hit that high velocity, and that's why they fit so well into the playoffs, because of how well they played against velocity. And like Air Jordan is saying, velocity wins in October. They should have been able to hit them.
Right. Well, I guess then the caveat to that is it depends on matchups also, obviously, right? Because like you just said, the Dodgers they feasted on fastballs all throughout the season. Well, Strasburg and Scherzer gave them breaking ball after breaking ball after breaking ball after breaking ball, and the spin just obviously couldn't.
Right. I mean, it was even who was the Anibal Sanchez?
Yeah.
Anibal Sanchez absolutely just ran right through that team because they were throwing junk at him.
170-mile-an-hour pitch after another.
Right, and they just could not catch up to it. They couldn't figure it out. They were swinging at pitches out of the zone because they were expecting fastball, and they're getting breaking pitches that were landing outside of the zone, so they were swinging away at it. And that's why velocity. So when you say velocity wins in October, yes, it does, except that's changing. Look, games change. Basketball changes. Baseball changes. High velocity. Throwing 100 miles an hour now is not like throwing 100 miles an hour when Nolan Ryan was throwing 100 miles an hour.
You need movement. You need movement.
Yep. You need movement. The game changes towards it, and the game seems to be changing towards being able to use your breaking pitches at the right time.
Yeah. I'll say you need velocity in the bullpen. We could say that.
Yeah.
I think your bullpen is where the velocity really needs to be.
Absolutely. But even then, you see guys like Jeremy Jeffress, who was throwing heat, and Hader, who Josh Hader was throwing heat, and he got beat up. I think that guys understand that how to hit 99 miles an hour now is not crazy for them anymore. Yeah. They can actually hit it now. They're waiting on it, and they know, and they're not. I think one thing that I love about Joe Davis and Oral Hershiser is how they when they're talking about the game during the season, they say things like the batter used the pitcher's velocity for in his advantage. He was letting him provide all of the power, and he was just swinging through.
Yeah.
And so that's what you're seeing more so in baseball. So, like, to compare it to something, I guess this is right off the top of my head, but compare it to like basketball, where everything was an inside-out game for a long time, where everything you needed a big center and you needed another big alongside him. The Twin Towers was it was a great thing to have. Then the Warriors came along and they changed basketball, where everybody had to shoot 3-pointers, otherwise they couldn't keep up with them because 3 is more than 2.
Right.
And now, so the game changes in that direction. Now that the Warriors aren't the Warriors anymore because of without Kevin Durant, now it's going back to another style where there's 2 teams. And the Lakers are one of the best teams, or we're assuming are going to be one of the best teams in basketball, and a legit chance to win the World Series, the NBA championship, because they have Twin Towers. They have 2. They're so big in the middle. It changes just like in baseball, where it's velocity, velocity, velocity. Now you need movement. Now you need sinker balls, and you need curve balls, and you need
you need guys who could pitch.
Yep. And it's just about pitching to so that's kind of where I'm going. Christopher Camella, what's up, Chris? Their inability to lay off those sliders down and in or down and away destroyed their hitters. Failure to make adjustments, same with Cards.
They did, although the start of Game 5 was a perfect game plan. They were laying off all the pitches that Strasburg got them to chase before.
Yeah. They
took their lead, and then it seemed like hitters all of a sudden got homer happy and just started chasing again.
Right. It's like they were trying to change. They were trying to be like, all right, we got our lead. Now let's just pile on pile on with home runs. And it just wasn't working. With a different ball, like we talked about earlier, That's just not possible. So how much of does the ball do you think actually made a difference for the Dodgers?
It made a little bit of difference, but also, I mean, the Nationals had a couple deep drives too that didn't go out, so it's tough to say, like, well, Dodgers almost had 3 home runs, maybe the Nationals almost had 2, and then you have to look at men on base. I guess if it was the regular season ball, I think the Dodgers probably do win, because I felt like Max Muncy, especially in Washington, he hit a couple, he pulled on the right field that off the bat sounded crazy, and it was a routine fly ball, and I'm thinking, wait a minute, how did that happen?
That happened, yeah. All right, so I think we've gotten to a point now, we're about 45, 50 minutes into this. I still don't feel great. I want to feel better. I don't know. So what is it about, how are you feeling right now, and what is it that, let's try and help the people that are listening, and what do you think, what can you say to kind of make people feel a little bit better?
The team still definitely has a lot of talent.
Right.
It's not like all of a sudden overnight they're a horrible, completely aging team.
Right.
Cody Bellinger should learn. An MVP season. It was his first time kind of going through that. I know he was Rookie of the Year in 2017. That was kind of different. I think you kind of come up and you're almost playing on instincts more than anything else. You're not really thinking at that point because you're succeeding at everything.
Right.
The MVP stuff, I think, wore on him a little bit. He said he was having fun, which I think it was, but everybody's human.
Right.
You start chasing that a little bit, I think. So he'll have another year under his belt. Max Muncy, he proved to not be a one-hit wonder, which is encouraging going forward. Justin Turner is still Justin Turner. Will Smith got a ton of experience, so you're catching. I know he didn't end the season well, especially in the postseason. He struggled, but your catching situation, at least with your starters, should be sorted out.
Yeah.
You have Verdugo coming back, and like we touched on earlier in the show, I personally think had Verdugo been active, the series plays out differently because Pollock's not getting as many at bats.
Oh yeah, God, which would have been fantastic. If I saw him strike out one more time, I was going to lose my mind. But yeah.
And like you said earlier, the Dodgers are going to have a ton of money to spend without going over the luxury tax threshold, which they've been mindful of the last couple of years. So trending in the right direction still.
All right, so that's now 3 years in a row that they've been bounced from the playoffs. You expect them, and I expect them to win the NL West again.
I think that, yes. I mean, you don't want to assume anything, but the Dodgers are head and shoulders better, the best team in the National League.
Yeah.
I know the Nationals beat them in 5 games and then ran through the Cardinals fine. The Dodgers, they're better than every National League team.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't think that's really going to change much going into next year.
Yeah, so you know that the Dodgers will most likely, we'll just say it's not guaranteed because there's a 162 game season and crazy things happen. Right. But yeah, most likely they go to the playoffs again, and you gotta just assume. So I don't know what the next change is, because this year the idea was this is the best Dodger team we've ever seen, like we talked about earlier. And then when you got to the playoffs, we're going to start using starting pitchers more. Instead of relying on the bullpen, we're going to, just like the Astros did to us in the 2017 World Series and the Red Sox did to us in the 2018 World Series, especially with Nathan Eovaldi, they were going to do that this year. And that's why maybe Dave Roberts kind of psyched himself into going with Kershaw in that situation. So if that's the case, what's the change? Is there a change?
I think there will be, just from the standpoint that it's not in Friedman's nature to be completely stagnant. I think we were kind of going around the diamond a little bit. In the outfield, there's some excess there.
Yeah.
So those pieces, I think, could be used in some sort of trade. It might not be the most glamorous trade that you're looking for, but there will be something. I think it's not beyond, it's not a stretch to say there's probably going to be 1 or 2 new relievers in the bullpen next season, but at the start of the season.
Well, yeah.
Whether it's a closer, a bona fide closer, who knows, somebody who could kind of close, we'll see.
Well, I mean, let's think about this for a second, just so we understand. I did these post games all year this year. The year before, I started about in the middle of the year. But one of my favorite sayings on these things is the bullpen at the start of the year is never the bullpen at the end. If you look at the bullpen in the postseason, the only 2 guys that I can think of off the top of my head that were there at the beginning of the year that were still there were Joe Kelly and Kenley Jansen. Besides that, it was Ross Stripling in the pen.
And Baez.
And okay, there you go.
But
and
still,
Baez.
only 3.
Yeah, 3 of 8. You know, So besides that, you had Dustin May that was in the bullpen that wasn't anywhere near there.
Right.
Julio Urias was a starter, or is probably going to be a starter in the bullpen. Maeda. I mean,
Kolarek wasn't on the team.
Kolarek wasn't on the team. Most of the guys that you put into those situations were not even thought of or even seen at the beginning of the year. So, yes, in the offseason, this is where it gets interesting. If you're a Dodger fan, do not get worried over the fact of like, oh, they didn't sign this guy for the bullpen. Even if you do, when they do, they don't always seem to work out. Who was the guy? I'm blanking on his name right now, but in 2018, they signed him at the beginning of the year. He was from the Pirates. Never pitched a game. I can't think of his name off the top of my head. If you're watching, I'm sure somebody will remember it. But it was a guy. He was in Pittsburgh. Came here. Was supposed to be
Tom Kohler.
Tom Kohler, yeah, was supposed to be great. Never pitched one game. That was your big signing for the bullpen. Just doesn't work. Joe Kelly was the big signing for your bullpen this year, and he was terrible the first couple months, the first month or two of the season, and then he was the GOAT. The bad way, the GOAT, not the greatest of all time GOAT, the bad GOAT. When it comes, which is a weird thing anyway. Like, why is there a bad GOAT and the greatest of all time with the same name?
I don't know. We have to come up with something new.
Yeah, let's get. First of all, I'm tired of everybody calling everybody GOAT. All right, not everyone is the greatest of all time at every single thing. All right, just my little soapbox for a second. but yeah, so that guy is not going to be there at the end of the year. So the offseason signing, unless it's a position player, or a starting pitcher. Don't get freaked out if the Dodgers don't sign a ton of bullpen. Like even the year before, Brandon Morrow was the guy that they signed. They came out of nowhere.
Brandon Morrow got called up because there was an opt-out clause in his contract.
Right.
So the Dodgers wanted to make sure they didn't lose him to free agency, and that was the reason they called him up. They called him up, and then all of a sudden, obviously, he did what he did.
Right.
And stuck with the team.
Yeah, and then he ended up being what they needed in the postseason, and then fell apart at the end of the postseason. Jorge Mercado says, pitching, and ask Pollock to please leave. If we made the point before, first of all, Pollock's not going anywhere.
Right.
But we made the point before that they had the best pitching staff in baseball. Yeah. Overall, number 1 in ERA for starters, number 4 in ERA in bullpen. That to me is the best pitching staff in all of baseball.
And again, it circles back to your point where having your bullpen to get through the regular season and having your bullpen to get the 11 wins in October, two separate things. There's some overlap with some guys who are still going to be there, but we're seeing it now more and more where starting pitchers are getting put into the bullpen.
Yep.
Dodgers are going to have an excess of starting pitchers still probably next year, so it wouldn't surprise me to see Dustin May end up in the same role that he did.
Yep.
Maybe Gonsolin gets his shot this time around.
Yep. And then, so Elm Street says, I love the show. Y'all the real goats.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate that.
I guess it looks like a positive one, right? You're not calling us bad goats.
No. Yeah, those are the... Oh, yeah, I don't know. Well, that one does...
We'll
take it positively, even if you meant it on the negative side, because we can never tell anymore. All right, but we're just about finishing up here. Is there anything else that you can say that can help people just feel a little bit better about this? We will be doing this. Do you know what the schedule is going to be for these?
Not completely set. I know we're both going to be kind of immersed in Lakers stuff going forward.
Yep.
So we'll kind of see. We'll at least try to do one weekly show, whether live or an actual podcast for you guys, which we'll have details for coming out.
Yeah, so Dodgers Talk will still be going on throughout the week, at least one per week with either Matthew Moreno or it could be with Daniel Starkand.
Yeah.
So there will be me and somebody else no matter what. So don't worry, this will still be going on. And if you want to leave it out on something, because I don't know what else to say to make people feel better, I'm still bent. I'm still hurt. I'm not kidding when I tell you that people ask me like, oh, God, the Dodgers, man. I'm like, I don't want to talk about it. Baseball ended. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not watching the World Series. I refuse, unless it's on one of the TVs around me. I refuse to watch it.
I don't know how I'm going to handle it. This is and I'm curious to see what we're going to ask fans on social media in the coming day. I guess tomorrow, because this World Series starts. Kind of, are you pulling for the Astros? Are you pulling for the Nationals? Do you not care?
I don't care.
I think that's kind of where
I don't want either of the teams. So just one last question: do you feel better knowing that let's say the Nationals win the World Series? Do you feel better that you lost to them in the first round, or do you feel worse?
Personally, it doesn't change anything for me, really, because I think losing is kind of losing.
Right.
Grand scheme of things, I think to the fan base, it will make a little bit difference. Well, we got knocked out of the first round. That was a disappointment. But hey, the Nationals went on and won the World Series. They're one of those teams where it was just their year.
Okay, fair. Or if you want to be negative, like I tend to be right now with the Dodgers, is that I it could be
That could have been.
the Dodgers. If the Nationals can go and run through and beat the Astros, the Dodgers could have done the exact same thing, and they should have gotten through they would have gotten through the Cardinals, and they could have gotten through there. So, no, it doesn't make me feel better, and I hate the Astros for what they did in 2017. So, both teams can go somewhere else. I don't want to say something, too bad here. All right. Well, hey, Matthew Moreno, thank you so much for being on here with me. I really, really appreciate it.
You.
And we'll be doing this again. This is Dodger Blue, and you can find everything that you need to dodgerblue.com, or you can find follow on Instagram and on Facebook and on Twitter, Dodger Blue 1958. I am at Bergman Greg on Instagram and at Bergman Greg on Twitter, and you are
at mmoreno1015 on Instagram on the screen for you guys.
Yep, there it is for you. All right, well, that's going to do it for this edition of Blue Review. There will be another one next week, and, we'll figure out the day and time, and we'll make it sure that everybody is aware of it. Thank you very much for being a part of it, and we'll talk to you